thank you all for being here. Appreciate that. I'm going to try really hard in this 45 minutes to give you probably 15 minutes, maybe more, to ask questions, okay? That's one of the goals this time around, is to give you more time for questions and less time of me sharing information. Remind you, as always, board agendas are always on the website. You can go to the website, gctech.edu, and go to About, and then that drop-down menu will actually give you minutes and board agendas. The agendas themselves are up there quicker than the minutes because the minutes don't post until after they're approved by the board. So usually that's about a month behind. But this is our most latest board meeting, our most recent board meeting. And we're just going to kind of go down this as rapidly as we can. I will tell you, not that I don't like a live audience, but we are live streaming these updates, and we will post the link on the website, or not the website, but Matt will give you a link if you want to. If you weren't able to be there, then you can catch up later, and that will be true each time. Okay, you can always get a link and hear what I have to share at that particular point in time. Board agenda, not a whole lot. Let me see if I can kind of scroll down. First page there. This is my 22nd year as a school superintendent, 23rd year as a school superintendent. The first time in my entire career that I did not have an estimate of needs to give to the board. Literally the first time. Estimate of needs is a financial document that you have to have approved by your local board, and then it goes to another board, and then it comes back to you, etc. But what's different in our case is, in my previous life, you just really only had to depend on one, maybe two counties, because you're getting some of your information, your net assessed valuation, your property value numbers from a county assessor. Well, we've got one of our 11 counties that still, as of 11/34 on the 18th of September, they do not have their numbers. And April avoids me, and our auditors avoid me, and I really think that assessor in that particular county, I don't know where they're at, but evidently they're having some software issues or something of that nature. That's a big deal because statutorily, we must have our estimate of needs approved by October 1st. So because that county didn't get their business taken care of, we're going to have a special board meeting. And then the question becomes, what if they don't get their business taken care of by October 1st? That's a really good question. Don't know. So, first time ever. We don't have an estimate of needs. Day-to-day operations not affected there, but it is a major issue at some particular point in time. That county happens to be Cleveland County, just to give them full credit. And the one school district that we have that's a partner of ours that extends into that county is McLeod. We're in parts of 11 counties, and so that happens to be one of those counties. We did a little update on our physical therapist assistant program MOU with Seminole State per the request of the accrediting body called CAFTI. I didn't get out there quick enough to stop this in social media, but even though they are enrolling individuals in the PTA program, we don't have an approved PTA program. And I had a conversation with Seminole State as late as Friday and said, well, actually Thursday, I do not feel comfortable asking people to enroll in a program that's not approved yet. And they said, well, how are we going to get students? And I said, if we get accredited, we'll get students. I've got that as one of the items to talk about very briefly. We, as in Gordon Cooper Technology Center, and Shakira and Lacey, and yes, Seminole State has done everything we possibly can. The ball is in the accrediting body. Accrediting bodies have tremendous power in this country. Incredible power. with what I believe, and I'm fine with being recorded, zero accountability. They don't have to be accountable to anybody for their decisions. They just make decisions. And they can either thumb up or thumb down, depending upon sometimes arbitrary things. All right, so we'll see what happens. Board resolution for the District 401A. We started that 3 years ago. This is the third year where the district did some matching. I call it 401K. Most people would know it that way. In the public sector, it's called a 401A and a 457B. That's where you can put money in and the district matches. You stay for 5 years. Both pots of money are yours. You leave before 5 years. The district keeps theirs. You take yours. All right. We upped the amount that is matched for the professional staff and the support staff. Okay. Next item. Item 10 is late breaking. Back late summer, I get a phone call from somebody in a high place that said, we really got to do something about court reporters in this state. We have none of them. Everybody that's doing it is 40 to 50 to 90. We've got nobody there. We've got all these vacancies, nobody doing it, and there's one entity in the entire state of Oklahoma that's actually training court reporters, and they're not doing a very good job. That's basically, I'm reiterating what I was told. And so as soon as I found that out, I got with some folks in Business and Career Services and said, let's figure this thing out. And so where we're at on that is we are in the process right now of finalizing an agreement with an entity that will provide us with the curriculum, and we hope as early as January to start a court reporting program. It's kind of like a lot of other things around here. When you get involved, you learn so much about it. And court reporting, the program itself will be a 2-year program. As you can imagine, if you know much about that particular occupation, it's very, very technical in nature. A lot of excellent skills. It's not just an academic pursuit, it's a physical, it's a kinesthetic pursuit, as it were, and hence the 2 years. Almost right now, the way we've got it designed, 1,200 hours is lab, where you're actually practicing the craft. And that's the big problem. Wage rates are very good, job opportunities are very good, and we're going to give it a shot. Item 11, as of October 1st, we will no longer have our custodial company. They're with us until that point in time. And then on October 1st, we'll have a new company. That's item 12. Item 13, we've got some out-of-state trips. Item 14 was actually updating a document that was 17 years old. Item 15, a bunch of surplus items. Let's go ahead and slide down here. Items 20 through 27 all deal with kind of personnel / wages, etc. Monique Radford was the last bus driver that we hired. I kind of joked recently and told folks, if you want to guarantee a job for anybody under the age of about 90, either get in health care or become a bus driver. You'll see more help wanted signs up for bus drivers than you will just about anything. It's just tough to find. Every superintendent's meeting I go to with partner schools, they're just, every one of them missing 1, 2, 5, whatever, pick a number. Item 23, Casey Morris was hired by the company that we were paying for the online coursework, and as a good solution, or the best solution we could have at the time, Sarah Weeks has been handling the coordination and management of that particular program, and will for most of the rest of the year, because that particular pool of potential employees to replace Casey was going to come from partner schools. And I've already got one partner school that's mad enough at me, and I don't need to make any other ones mad at me for taking other staff members. Items 24, 25, and 26, if you haven't already, you will very soon get an email directly from me regarding each one of those. The board, again, approved all of those items. And as you'll see in the email, if you haven't already seen it from me, I would really encourage you to thank the board. They have been willing to support increases each and every year, and I can guarantee you, you pick the educational entity in the state that has enjoyed what we've enjoyed, and you're not going to find them. You're just not going to find them, especially in the K-12 and probably in the higher end as well. Item 27, they also...
I just have a quick question there. You had that some people that were hired after a certain date would not be eligible for the raise, but just for a one-time stipend.
That's support staff. Okay. What's that date? Well, it's only 2 people, and if you'll get with me, I'll tell you who those 2 people are. Okay? One of them's yours, and one of them's Rhonda's.
Okay.
Both of those individuals were hired somewhere around March, April, May, June, and so they weren't here long enough to get a full year in, but they were here before July 1. So in lieu of that, that's why the difference. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 27, the work group targets and the district targets had already been approved. That will be as it has been in the past. I encourage you, supervisors, if you've not already had 2 or 3 conversations with the folks that you supervise about this, you need to. Unfortunately, we're real good at getting worried about this in about March. Okay, I'd like to kind of move that worry up a few months if we could, so that we could really focus on some of those things. Item 28, 29, etc., all deal with finance items. And that is the board meeting. I've got 4 more things that I want to share with you, and then I'm going to let you ask me some questions. I already mentioned PTA. I already mentioned court reporter. Any questions about either one of those 2 things? Court reporter or PTA? The difference between those 2 specifically, court reporter will be strictly Gordon Cooper. We're not having to partner with anybody. We don't need to be beholden to anybody. There is going to be a partnership with someone that will provide curriculum for us. And some proverbial street credibility. But beyond that, it's the Gordon Cooper program. Don't have this, I'll get you just a second. Don't have this etched in concrete, but we're probably looking at a tuition rate somewhere around $10,000 for the full program. That still is far less. If you go out on the market, a program like that is typically $12,000 to $20,000 for the same program. Tulsa Community College is going to attempt to do it, and I'll guarantee you their tuition and fees is probably going to be north of $12,000. We're going to do it at 10, and it's going to be an adult-only program. There's no high schoolers recruited at all because kind of our research has indicated high schoolers are not going to have the tenacity or probably the aptitude to really excel in a program like that. Very, very intense. Okay, Sue Ellen, you had a question?
You just answered it.
Okay. Anything else? PTA? Court reporter?
Is that going to be eligible for financial aid?
Yes, it is. That's something we worked on last week. As soon as we visited with the gentlemen who we're working with for the curriculum, etc., the next step was to get it Pell eligible. And the $10,000, if someone is fully Pell eligible, they'll be eligible basically to take care of all the tuition and fees with Pell and have some money left over. Signage, hopefully you've noticed that there's a lot of what I'll call static signage around. And that's just the beginning of it. We're trying to improve some things outside in terms of The fancy word is wayfinding and things of that nature. And kudos to Brett and several other people in here that provide a lot of good input into that process. Our student parking especially, we've tried to kind of improve upon. I know that'll be a work in progress. And we'll have diamond days and we'll have coal days when it's all said and done. But hopefully we'll make a little movement there. Some additional signage that you will see probably in the next, let's say, 4 months between now and Christmas that the board approved. We're going to have some replacements of the signage on what I call the northeast corner. We've got a real dated sign right there, and that's being kind. And it's an extremely dated sign with several directions and or programs that don't even exist in title or otherwise. So that will be replaced with a sign that does a good job of kind of directing people from the outside. We'll have one on the south side of the campus as well that's similar in size and scale but has some different wording. And then we are going to replace our sign by 45th Street with a little bit more robust sign in terms of what it can do and the size as well, and probably look to try to do some other things at some other campuses as well. We're in the process right now of looking at making some improvements in our break area. This is probably another one of those things that's going to be a before Christmas hopefully thing, maybe ready for the second semester to just, you got a look and you've got furniture in that area that predates many of you and your birth. Both the furniture and the look. And we've got some pricing there, and we're going to try to improve that just for a lot of different things, not the least of which is the students. Last thing that I've got before I'll open it up to questions is, if you've been paying attention to the news, the governor, as it's within her right to do, has called what's called a special session. If you've been paying attention at the state level, first of all, we've got a financial crisis, and we're actually going on almost 10 years worth of financial crisis. So I guess, I don't know at what point in time they redefine the word crisis. Usually crisis is an event, not an annual occurrence. But nonetheless, in Oklahoma, it seems to be an ongoing situation. What does that mean? That means next Monday, the 25th, the governor has called the House and the Senate into session. And specifically, one of the things that they're going to be working on is they passed, as part of their budget fix last year, an unconstitutional and illegal tax. And the Supreme Court reiterated the fact that it was both unconstitutional and illegal. And that has put, depending upon whose numbers you want to look at, anywhere from $215 to $715 million additional hole in the budget. If we were dealing with a $70 billion budget, that would be a piece of change. But the Oklahoma budget, given what's happened over the last decade, is not that big, and you can't make it up. The other real problem with that is that money affects the way they divvied the money up during the legislative session. It affects basically 3 entities only. And so that may be the good news, but the bad news there is those 3 are just catastrophically affected if they don't come up with a solution. Okay? So most of what they're going to hopefully deal with is that. I think the governor and her lieutenants would like for them to really take a broader view of the tax structure. That's what she was really encouraging them to do all throughout the last legislative session. Last spring, they couldn't get that done. I've got a little press release here that I just got, and it's really interesting. You've got the governor with her take. You've got the Senate pro temp on his take. You've got the House Speaker, his take. And you've got the Senate Democrats with their take. Would you like to guess whether they have the same takes? That would be a no, in any way, shape, or form. And I think there's a real possibility we'll see an additional, at least an additional 3.1 to 3 well, it'll be 3.1 probably to as much as 6% cut above what we've already seen. Okay, just for your information, I won't go back to 2008, 2009, although I could. Last year, from last June of 2017 to our newest number, our cut was 4.7%. Just Gordon Cooper's cut. As I said, I think we'll get 3 to 5% more. If we go back to June 30th of 2016, our cut's 8.5%. If you go back to 2009, our cut has been from a little under $6 million from the state. We don't get a lot in the overall scheme of the budget. Career Tech doesn't. They're a blip on the radar screen compared to Common Ed and a few others. But Gordon Cooper has decreased in terms of state money to Gordon Cooper from a little under $3.6 million to now we're just a little over $2.6. I'm letting you soak that in. Good news is, when your number is real small and you get a percentage cut, that means that number is small. That's me trying to be an optimist, all right? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Eventually, that becomes an issue at the state level, because although any growth that we have in local property taxes, which is still our primary source of funding, about 65% of our funding comes from local property taxes that you and I pay in this district, but still, we get about 25% of our dollars from the state. It's still significant, all right? But there's two other things that happens within the Career Tech system that you may not think affects you at all, but you need to pay attention to it. And neither one of those two get a penny from any source other than state funding. And that's the State Department of Career Tech and skill centers. State Department of Career Tech, for every dollar they're cut, there is no other way to make it up. There's no other source of funding. When I came into the system in 2005, they had about 360 to 380 staff members. They're down to right at 200. And if you want to know why, that maybe they're not as responsive as you think they need to be, or they're not providing the leadership you think they need to be, or they're not doing this, or they're not doing that, you try to operate on 30% less or more. Okay? Skill centers just defies logic to me. And here's why. We operate great career technical programs in prisons in Oklahoma. If you want to just look at it from a business standpoint, the best dollar we can spend incarcerating prisoners is to invest in career tech. Because the recidivism rate, the rate at which they repeat and go back into the system, if they are successful in a career tech program, behind the fences, as they say, that recidivism rate is not quite single digits, but it's about 10 to 12% actually repeat. If they don't, it's 60 to 70% showing back up. But somehow we haven't figured that out. And it's real easy to say, let's just lock them up and throw away the key. Well, for those of you who don't know, we've been trying that since about 1980-something. Okay? Hadn't worked real effectively. There is a good program that works out there, and that's a Skills Center program. And every dollar that's cut, they just shut programs down. Why do they shut programs down? Because there's no other source of funding. None whatsoever. So it's a big deal. Big deal. Questions? Miss Charlotte.
I missed when you came, but on the increase on the professional staff matching on the savings, how much is that you can put in now?
You can put in, professional staff can put in $70 and get matched 70.
Okay.
Now I'm doing this off the top of my head, and that's always dangerous at this state of my age. For support, it went from 40 to 60. Okay? I hope next year to be able to take everybody up a little bit. That just was not one of the things that we talked about in negotiations. But next year, as I get older, that becomes more and more important, not to me personally, but just to try to foster some opportunities for folks to set aside that particular piece of the puzzle for them. I would tell every one of you, if you're under the age of about 45, if you're not putting some money away into something every single month, please do. And if you're under the age of 35, come see me and I'll give you some personal counseling, all right? Because you have the chance to help not only yourself but your entire family for probably generations by just, you put in 60 and you get 120, or you put in 70 and you get 140, you put in, I don't know that I'll get it done in my tenure, but I'd like to see that number continue to grow a little bit, just simply because that's beneficial to you as an individual. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive to the typical American thought that I need cash in my pocket, but that delayed gratification has some real value to finances. So anyway, that was more than you wanted to know, Charlotte. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you totally. After someone just retired in my family.
Yeah. You'll remember about 3 years ago when we began thinking about this, they talked about a 3-legged stool for retirement. I'll always tell you, you need to demand that nothing happens negatively to your teacher retirement system. I don't care where you are in the food chain, because that's a good situation that you can't make up with stock investments, defined benefit. That's one leg. The second leg is Social Security. And then the third leg is your own personal investments. And if you can find a way to do that, and I know it differs for every person, I understand that. Been there, done that. But, the earlier you start, it can really benefit you as an individual. And I say for generations, because what will typically happen is when you get ready to cash that in, you won't withdraw typically enough to actually take the principal down, and it'll be something that you can pass on to the next generation in a pretty sizable amount. So if you're thinking about that as well, that's another reason. What else? Another question. Another question. Sorry that the folks watching online, I'm sure there are millions of them, right, Matt? Probably all the legislators are, and I'm in real trouble now. Any questions at all? Anything? Roger, I'm counting on you. Anything you can think of? You don't have to make something up, Roger. That's okay.
When do we start those contributions, though? Increase them as of this month, next month?
I think it will start in October. And I'll mention this in my email, but for those that are new, Dempsey, especially you, the way we handle pay increases around here, just as a natural course of things, is we always, so whatever increase you're going to see, or anybody else in this room, whatever your start date was, so if some of us in this room are 12 months, so we started July 1, new contract year. So we'll get, we call it a retro check, a single check to make up for all the time that we didn't get that increase from the start date to October 1. Okay? You'll start seeing your new pay amount on that first October paycheck. The September, August, and July will be the retro piece. If you started August 1, then obviously it will just simply be those 2 months. That's the way it'll kind of shake out. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. The 401A is a little bit different, just simply because of the sequencing of it, but you end up getting the full effect when it's all said and done. I'm stalling to see if there's any other questions.
I don't have a question for you, but kind of for the group.
Okay.
The pay statements in your email, did anybody have problems? Is that okay? Any gnashing complaints, preferences?
So,
Love it?
better.
Love it?
so basically we're trying to go paperless, all right? And what you got was a notification with a PDF that had your specific pay stub on it. And if I remember correctly, it was first initial, last 5 digits of your social. And then that lets you open it. You've got to redo that. Close your ears, April. You've got to enter that information again if you want to print a copy of it. Okay? That's kind of defeats the purpose of why we went that particular direction. But neither here nor there. That's kind of what that was all about. That actually is a new technology that we just got the opportunity to do. It's not like we were dragging our feet. It was just a software company didn't have that capability before this year. Beginning in October, you won't get both. You'll just get the email. So there's a little transition period so you can kind of condition yourself a little bit. If somebody that you know of has some issues or has some concerns there, just let us know. We'll try to do what we can to help out. Okay? Anything else? Anything? All right. Thank you all.